All right, pleased to be joined by Nick Curran. He is the voice of the Louisville Bats. Joined us a couple times here over the last couple years. Excited to talk a little bit about the Bats and their season up here to the All-Star break. Nick, you've had a lot of players shuffled up and down. I don't know. I don't think we've recorded something the last 2 years. I don't think there's been a time the last 2 years where I looked at the roster. I'm like, half these players we've seen in the big leagues.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a well, it's been in a lot of ways kind of a typical AAA year where things are always in flux and guys shuffling up and down and injuries and things like that. But yeah, this year I think maybe more than the last few, it's been a lot of like the same guys going up and down and. So it's been, guys you see and then they go up for a while and then come back and sort of things like that. So it's been a little bit more unique, I guess, in that way than maybe the last few.
Feels like the Bats have been was recording this here on Friday. Feels like they have been playing maybe some of their better baseball of late. Certainly have had some good games. What's kind of maybe your kind of a hard question for for a team that does have that much roster influx. What's kind of your overall thoughts on the season so far for Louisville?
Yeah, it's been mostly a 500 team for most of the year. The record doesn't reflect that right now. There was a 9-game losing streak mixed in there, and that kind of put the Bats behind the 8 ball. But outside of that, it's been 3-game winning streaks, 3-game losing streaks, things like that, and pretty much a 500 ball club. And that's kind of been the thing. Some of the big takeaways. This team for the third straight year, really good at turning double plays near the top of the league and that. And they've gotten great middle infield play from Levi Jordan in particular, who can play second or short really, really well, also plays some third base. Davis Wenzel has been an excellent shortstop or third baseman wherever he has been placed out there. And so Francisco Urbaez in that mix at second base quite a bit as well. So we've seen that. We've also seen this team second in the league in doubles. So they come up with a lot of doubles, and that's been something else kind of kept an eye on. It's been a team inconsistent offensively, but a lot of the pieces that you felt like need to be consistent for this team to hit well have really been coming around in the last few weeks, like an Edwin Rios. Rece Hinds, obviously re-added to this lineup. He's having a phenomenal season at AAA. A guy like Ryan Belade, who was added via the trade, he's been a big bolster to the lineup, has homered in back-to-back games here in Columbus as we're talking about this. Francisco Urbaez is having a career year, getting his first real chance for everyday playing time at the AAA level. And he's in the top 10 in the league in hitting, leads the team in doubles and triples. So he's having a really nice year. So a lot of individual, really good performances on the offensive side for a team that overall has been a little bit inconsistent. And then pitching, I think the bullpen was sort of the thing that everyone thought would be the strength coming into the year. And at times it has been, but again, with all the sort of ups and downs and fluctuations of the roster, it's hard to nail down roles sometimes and feel really consistent with where things are. And I think that's been the case for this team. But maybe the starting pitching has been a little bit of a surprise in how I think good it's been, especially lately. Chase Petty, obviously, we know what he can do, and he's had a nice year at AAA. Brian Van Belle, who was added to this team at the same time as Vilade via trade with the Red Sox, who is on the 40-man roster, but obviously hasn't been in the big leagues yet. He's pitched really well in a starting role. We've gotten a few looks at Jose Franco, who got off to a nice start here, a young pitcher up from AA who's had a rough go of it his last 2 times out, but there's no question you can see the talent. And then veterans like Aaron Wilkerson, who's had a great year, Adam Pletko, who's had really, really good month or so. So the starting pitching's been really good lately, and that's a reason why the team has played a little bit better the last few weeks.
Let me ask you about Reese Hines because he's having you've got to see the best version of Reese Hines this year down at Louisville. And I feel in some respects hasn't exactly got the fairest shake in the big leagues. He faced a lot of incredible pitchers, left-handed pitchers, and I think he's kind of gotten pigeonholed to this guy that, well, he hasn't had a lot of success. He also hasn't hit lefties. Well, he's faced some of the best lefties. But you saw him last year, and then this year, just judging off the numbers, he's made massive strides, at least at the AAA level, from 2024 to 2025.
Yeah, I think it's night and day in his consistency. He's been so consistent. I mean, he's hitting over 300, which was something I don't think we would have ever seen last year. Um, the strikeouts are still a little bit high, but that's kind of something you're going to have to deal with him. But they're down from what they were last year. He's walking, I think, a little bit more, but even beyond that, he's sort of taking what he can get more at the plate in terms of if he can slap a single the other way, he'll do it. And I don't know that was something he was doing last year. We saw him earlier in this series in Columbus. There were either second and third with one out or bases were loaded. I think it was second and third. The infield wasn't in, and he just hit a ground ball to first. And they always play him to pull as a right-handed hitter, but he just knocked one the other way to first on the ground to score a run. So plated a run. It was a really, I thought, just like mature at bat to say, okay, you're going to give me this. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to drive in a run. And I'm not sure that that's something we would have seen last year. We've just gotten to see, I think, really what he can do. He's got really good speed, can steal bases, closing in on 20 steals with the bats this year. And obviously the power. I mean, we've all seen that, and we've seen that in the big leagues. But I think he's being willing to be more patient at the plate and take more of what pitchers give him, and swinging at less bad pitches, I think, this year. And he said, I talked to him back in April at the very start of the season, and he said that was one of his major goals this year. And I know that sounds really simple, and that's what he said, but not always the easiest thing to execute, to just not swing at bad pitches and to not swing at pitches that pitchers want you to swing at. And I think he's taken that to heart and done a phenomenal job. In the big leagues, here he's gotten to play every day, and that's not necessarily clearly been the case up there. And I think that is, guys who go to the big leagues for the first time and come back and maybe don't get a chance to play every day. That's always one of the things when you talk to them that they talk about, is learning that routine of how to come off the bench and how to stay ready when maybe you're not starting, but you might get an at bat in a situation later in the game or come in defensively, whatever the case may be. Trying to figure out that routine is always a major adjustment. And so I think he's just gotten really comfortable with playing every day. Hasn't gotten a chance to do it up there, but in due time. I mean, he's having a phenomenal year here, and I don't know that there's a lot more he can do at this level. It's just about finding an opportunity to be able to at some point play every day up there, I think.
Another player that has impressed me has been Ryan Belade, who you already mentioned. Feels like a player that could absolutely carve out a big league role as a utility player. What's maybe kind of impressed you, and you haven't seen him a whole lot yet. The Reds acquired him, and he played a couple games and got up to the big leagues and then came back. What's kind of impressed you from him?
Well, we have seen him quite a bit in this league over the years against the bats. He's been a Toledo Mud Hen. He's been an Indianapolis Indian. He was a Memphis Redbird earlier this year. So we've gotten to see him a lot against the bats, and I've always found him to be really impressive. So it's cool to be able to watch him play for us. But you said it. I think that utility that he brings, he can play a lot of different positions. You can put him in the corners in the outfield, first and third. He can play a little bit of middle infield too. I think hasn't gotten a chance to do that with the bats because those are pretty deep positions here, and I know they're deep positions in the big leagues too. But I think he can hit, and there's no question about that. He's like I said, as we record this, he's homered in back-to-back games here. Has good power, and I think picks his spots on the bases too. Is a good base stealer in terms of situationally understanding when he can run and maximizing how successful he'll be when he does. And so in that way, I just think he's a really smart baseball guy. And I think that is the role, that he'll be able to go up there and be able to plug a lot of different positions if that's what's needed. And I think that's the biggest value he brings. You can put him in a lot of different places. He'll perform well. We've watched him play really solid defense in whatever spot he's been in the short time we've seen him, and he can hit. There's no question about that. So if you need a spot, and obviously his stint up there, he didn't get really. I think he got in one game and didn't have a plate appearance, so he didn't really get to see much. But he's a guy that is perfect because you can bring him up and just plug him in wherever you need him, and I think that's the value he brings.
Yeah, poor guy. The only thing Reds fans remember is him not catching Nick Martinez's no-hitter, a ball that I don't think he had any chance whatsoever of catching, but some people thought he did. Deep South Commodities is a proud supporter of Chatterbox Reds and our Deep Drive of the Day, and DSC is a leader in renewable commodities for biofuel production, specializing in used cooking oil collection, aggregation, and sales. Visit www.deepsouthcommodities.com for more information. Thanks as always to our friends at DSC. And we also want to remind you that you can call or text 988 anytime, day or night. The 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline is a place to get support for anything related to mental health. Whether it's an immediate crisis, simply wanting to find out how to connect with care, or anything in between, it's a 100% confidential, secure, and anonymous way to reach out for help when you don't know where else to turn. To connect, call or text 988 or visit mantherapy.org to get help. It's okay not to be okay. Let's shift to the bullpen because I don't know, Nick. Has there ever been a more talented Louisville bullpen with upside? I mean, with Maxwell, May right now, and by as I record this, we release this next week. May could get called up on Saturday, and I don't think it would shock any of us. And then, of course, Connor Phillips as well. I mean, three just incredibly talented arms. Got to find a way to have a little bit more consistency. But man, they are three. They're definitely big league talent arms. There's no question about that.
Yeah, I think it's been fun to watch these guys pitch, and all three have big arms. And I'll start with Maxwell, who you haven't seen in the big leagues yet, but there's no question the talent's there. There's no question, the powerful arm he has, that fastball slider combination. He's been working on adding a cutter to his arsenal, and that's one of the things that he's been working through this year. And that's always one of the sort of double-edged swords of looking at the numbers in the minor leagues, right? Like, guys are trying to work on things, and so sometimes that leads to not the success you want, but they're fine-tuning something that they think is going to help them elongate their career and elongate their stay in the big leagues when they get there. And I think that's something Maxwell is doing. But his numbers, his ERA, a little bit deceptive because he's had a couple of blow-up outings where they've gotten a bunch of runs off of him. He gave up a walk-off grand slam in Memphis earlier this year, one of them that comes to mind. But he's strung together a lot of scoreless outings in between those. And so, I think just the consistency and being able to stay in the strike zone and not walking guys. But one of the positives is he has faced a lot of adversity this year. Earlier this week in Columbus, came in late in the game with a chance to close it out. I think let the first two guys reach and then got the next three in order to get out of it. So he's learned that, I think, which is a big deal, and getting more and more comfortable in those sort of pressure situations at the ends of games. But there's no question the talent he has. With Luis May, I mean, you've seen it on full display in the big leagues. I think his stuff plays up there, and he showed that. And I think one of the things they're working on with him is trying to get him more comfortable pitching on back-to-back days, because that is clearly something you'll have to do at the major league level. So trying to get him maybe back-to-back, maybe a little bit of 3 out of 4, whatever the case may be. So that's definitely been an emphasis, but it's been so much fun to watch him pitch. Not a lot seems to phase him, just kind of goes out there and does it day in and day out whenever he's called upon. And that's been a lot of fun. And then with Connor Phillips, switching from a starting role to a bullpen role is I think always an adjustment, but He seems to have taken right to it. Obviously, his stuff plays up a little bit. It was already good even as a starter, but it plays up a little bit pitching out of the pen. And for the most part, he's just been rock solid. He's been maybe as consistent as I've seen him pitch, just in this bullpen role as a starter. Obviously, last year things didn't go the way he wanted to, and um, maybe not the consistency you would want to see in terms of throwing strikes. But I don't know, he's just looked really comfortable in this relief role, and has just been um, really solid. And it's been fun to watch him and embrace it, I think, um, and be able to come in and help this team. And obviously has had a chance to go up there a little bit too. But yeah, he maybe more than I would have expected just immediately. And I know it's been a process working through it over the course of the off season, and then started the year on the bats injured list and was working through things in Arizona. But uh, a lot to it. But for us, he showed up and just plugged right in and was really really good.
Chase Petty, you're actually going to see him, I believe, pitch later tonight. So um, obviously that won't be part of this. But kind of like Rece Hinds, you've got to see the best of Chase Petty. Whereas at the big league club in a very short, not exactly fair sample, especially since he came in once in the 10th inning, not really, I think, the role you would have designed for Chase Petty. But you've seen a really good pitcher for the most part this year.
He's been, yeah, really really good. And I think the thing that's impressed me about him since we saw him briefly last year and now into this year, just how he's only 22, which is, I think, something to keep in mind. He's still a very young guy, but he's already really mature, really poised out there, and just has that like presence about him, that he knows what he's doing and what he wants to get accomplished and how he's going about attacking guys. And I think that's really impressive, especially for someone that young. Um, he just kind of brought it all. And I think, coming back from the big leagues and a couple of stints, still trying to work through that, because there was a long stint where he was up there and maybe that third appearance, and then they kind of had him up there in case they needed him in long relief, and then it never really happened, so got sent back and hadn't pitched in a while, and so just got out of like the normal rhythm. And another trip up again, not in just kind of the normal rhythm of what you're accustomed to, pitching every 5 days, which has been the schedule they've had him on. I think intentionally have had him pitching every 5 days, whereas in the minors, we play 6-game series every Monday off. So a lot of pitchers, if you just stay in the rotation, it's every 6 day. They've been shuffling Petty to wherever it can be every 5 days for him, kind of on a schedule like you'd obviously see in the big leagues. So I think, you didn't get to see a lot of him up there and really get comfortable and sort of working into that, because it's an adjustment. But I don't think there's any question he has the demeanor and the talent to be able to be back up there and be a contributor. We've seen it all season here.
Brian Van Belle has been incredibly impressive to me. Looks like a really good signing. The Reds were able to pick him up from the Red Sox. Maybe the most impressive thing is, like, this guy he never walks anyone. He feels like a guy to me that at some point will make a start for the Reds in the second half, unless they are just incredibly blessed with starting pitching health.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a good chance you could see him up there. And it's a tough story for him, because he was a non-drafted free agent, signed by the Red Sox in 2020. Would have certainly been drafted that year, but it was only 5 rounds of the draft. Pitched his final college year at Miami, and he was having a great year in AAA with the Red Sox at Worcester. So they selected his contract, called him to the big leagues. He was up there for a day or two, never pitched, and they designated him for assignment. And the Reds were obviously able to get him after that. And he's been great with the bats and is on that Reds 40-man roster. So he's been to the big leagues once for a couple of days, but hasn't debuted yet. But there's not much more. You said it. He throws strikes. He doesn't walk guys, and he can kind of just do. He's got a good pitch mix to be able to do whatever he needs. We saw him really um, fooling guys a lot yesterday, striking guys out as he started, as we're recording this yesterday afternoon, and went 6 innings, allowed a couple of runs. He struck out the first 4 guys he faced in the game yesterday, but then he also induces a lot of soft contact and just has guys on their heels and has a good feel for what to throw and win. And I think that's what's been impressive. Even when he gets behind in counts, he seems to find a way to miss barrels and to just has that feel for what he wants to throw and how to keep hitters off balance. And that's been the most impressive part to me from him, and doing it all while staying right in the strike zone. So yeah, I think there's a good chance you see him up there at some point this year, and he has come out of the bullpen a few times this year as well. So he could probably be someone if you needed innings in a long relief role. Perhaps he would be a guy along with Sam Ben-Scooter who could be up there and provide that.
All right. Well, Nick, really do appreciate your time. One last question for you. Give me one player that's probably under the radar that could maybe debut with the Reds this year, or maybe even next year, that maybe a lot of people aren't talking about or doesn't show up on prospect lists.
Yeah, there are. Well, I'll give you 2. I'll give you one from the sort of offensive side, and one maybe from the defensive side or from the pitching side. I mentioned him earlier, but Francisco Urbaez is having an incredible year at the plate. He's hit everywhere he's been in his career. This is his 4th time in the last 5 years with time in Louisville. Has kind of been that guy that's gone up and back between Chattanooga and Louisville and been on that shuttle. But he's finally gotten like everyday playing time this year and has been in the top 10 in the league and hitting for most of the year. He's not a home run hitter, but the power numbers, he leads the team, like I mentioned earlier, in doubles and triples, is tied for the league lead in triples, and is in the top 5 in doubles. So he has that. I think has a little bit of speed he can bring. And one of the questions I think about him has been where you play him defensively, but I think he's improved that part of his game a lot this year, and just being able to get out there and play every day has been a big part of that too. So I think he's a guy that maybe you could see at some point if they need. He can play multiple positions on the infield too. So we'll see. And a little bit of outfield. He's gotten a little bit of time in the corner outfield spots as well. And then from a pitching perspective, Sam Ben-Scooter was up there and never got a chance to pitch, unfortunately, but having just a phenomenal year. He's been kind of that swing guy for the bats, either a starter or a reliever, and has performed well in whatever the role has been, spot starting or relieving, mostly long relief, and has been lights out, earned that shot to go up there, and unfortunately they didn't end up needing him, but wouldn't be surprised to see him back up there at some point this year, and he's earned it. It's been a lot of fun. And then one more, I'll give you one more off the radar on the pitching side. Not really off the radar, but seen him before. But Raver Sanmartin, coming off of Tommy John surgery a couple of years ago, returned to the bats last year, and is having a really good year this year. Now is exclusively a reliever. Obviously had been a starter before, but pitching completely out of the bullpen now, and as a left-hander having a really, really nice year, and has been up there, knows what it takes in the big leagues, has a great attitude, a smile on his face every day. And I think he's a guy that maybe could get a look as well, depending on if the Reds need any left-handed help, and can pitch multiple innings as well. So those are 3.
All right, I love it. Well, Nick, so much. Really appreciate your time. As always, enjoy the rest of this season here with Louisville, and we'll catch up again sometime down the road.
Absolutely. Appreciate it, Nick.